Hey everyone, this is Andy. This is Eric. This is my spiker. This is Troy-Bilt Live. Before I start kind of getting from the get-go, I thought I'd wait a minute because it takes people a little while to figure out how to use the live thing, and there's 8 people here already. If you all want to say hello, let me know that the video and the voice that you can hear me. If I could sign language, can you hear me? That would be great. I'm holding the laptop and I'm outside, so it's kind of hard to see the screen. But I got 1 thumbs up. I got 11 people. So could one of you say, hey, I can hear you, or type something? It's the comment thing should be on the, I'm hoping it's on the side. If you would do that, just to let me know. Yeah, Eric, I hear you. No one. Oh, Adam's here. My sister is here. That means I have to behave myself. Hearing and seeing. Okay, so cool, here we are. Welcome. It literally, there was snow on the ground, and I didn't want to tell Aya about the snow on the ground, and thankfully it melted last night, so I didn't want to rain on your parade that you've worked on here so much. So, and Adam too. So welcome. My name is Eric. I'm from a YouTube channel called GardenFork. It's kind of a eclectic DIY. Our big mantra is done is better than perfect. And that's kind of what I apply to the yard. And as we know, what we've just been through this year has been kind of rough. And I think everyone, I'm like, let's get out in the yard. Even though it's 45 degrees here, we are out in the yard. We're just training the pups on the containment fence. They're learning how to not go into the road, which is very nice. But the yard, the lawn, the grass is like, can you see that? Here, let me show you. Like over here, this needs some work. So what I wanted to talk about in the half hour I have here, stick around because the Troy-Bilt experts, actually the people that know what they're talking about, we're going to be doing a series of these today. They're going to be talking about how to maintain your equipment, stuff like that. I'm going to talk about fertilizing your lawn and weed control. And if we have time, we're going to talk about also reseeding grass areas as well, because I have 2 areas in there. It's kind of cold, so I'm going to put some gloves on. Okay. So wait, I got notes. Aren't you proud of me? I made notes. Okay. The biggest thing with fertilizing a lawn, I basically have the outlook of keep it simple. If you want to have a grass that looks like a golf course, it's going to require more work than a yard with grass that just looks good and that you can enjoy. So probably the number 1 thing you can do to fertilize and improve your grass is, wait for it, I have a prop. Measure your yard. Everything about fertilizer is based on square footage. So if you measure your yard, you know how much grass you have, right? It was kind of a eureka moment when I was researching some of this over the week, in the last 10 minutes actually. And I was like, oh, this is really all comes down to numbers in a way, and numbers and judgment. So, but if you measure your yard and calculate your square feet, then you have an idea of actually how much yard you have and how much fertilizer you're going to need. And if you have like a curvy yard, like I do, I mean, not everyone is a rectangle. Yeah, I think if you get to a close number, you are good. By the way, if you have questions about this, let me know, because the whole idea here is for me to talk less about what I know and to answer questions that you want to know answered. So Chip and Marty, if you're watching, maybe you could ask a question. Chip is one of my best friends, by the way. He really is. All right. So the idea here with fertilizer is it's basically nitrogen and then some other elements as well. But the big one is N. So when you look at a bag of fertilizer, I like how I disappear out of the frame, there's these numbers at the top, right? And the first one is your nitrogen, or how much nitrogen you're dropping on top of the soil. It's a whole nother thing to get it into the soil. That number determines basically how powerful or how strong or the strength of that fertilizer, if I'm making sense. And you can go to the point where it's too much of a good thing. Like 2 glasses of wine is great. 3 glasses of wine is like, so think about that with your yard. It's good to give it what it needs. It's bad to give it more than what it needs because you can burn it, and we'll go into all this. So the biggest number we want to do is, once we figure out our square footage here, is, wait, I wrote it down here, is this number here. So every application of fertilizer, you want 1 pound of nitrogen, not 1 pound of fertilizer, but 1 pound of nitrogen that's in the fertilizer per 1,000 square feet. And what this is a baseline for is your first year, you can do this, I think twice a year is fine, late spring and early fall, late summer, basically. And then you'll get a feel for whether your grass needs more or less. A lot of grasses, it's all a blend. Sometimes it's all fescue, sometimes it's all zoysia. You know, if it's a golf course, it's zoysia. But I'm just seeing if there's any questions. It's kind of hard to read the screen here. So, no. Oh, weekend project. I'm going to go visit my sister. And, we're going to do a YouTube live at my sister's house. We're going to talk about cultivating and tilling live in St. Louis. So that'd be fun. So anyway, wave to the neighbor. So this 1 pound per 1,000 square feet is a baseline to go to. There are some grasses, particularly in warmer climates, that are bigger nitrogen eaters and absorb. They need more nitrogen than, say, a New England yard, which is what I have here. So we'll start out over here. The other important thing is the way you distribute that and the kind of nitrogen that's available in your fertilizer. So on the back of your fertilizer here, there's water-soluble nitrogen in the analysis, and there is water-insoluble nitrogen as well. And what you need to, there is some math involved here to figure out how much of that is absorbed from the get-go and how much of it is absorbed over time. I prefer a time-release fertilizer rather than an all-at-once fertilizer. Time-release fertilizers are, they're usually, it's called pelletized. I just put the fertilizer away, but they have a coating around them or a coating mixed in. Is that, I can't really hold it up to the, I just got fertilizer all over my laptop. Can you see that? I don't see it. I think it really shows that. So anyway, and I just crunched it into the hinge of the laptop. So I just dumped fertilizer all over the laptop. Oops.
It's a grow.
I'm just gonna do a little shake there. Shaky cam. Shaky cam. Barb and Megan are loving this. So, where was I? So a pelletized, it's kind of all over the, you get my point here. What they do to make it a time release is they take the fertilizer and they mix it with usually clay or something like that, which breaks down slowly. And so it might look like it's just on the ground, but as it rains and the sunlight will slowly break down the clay, and a little bit more nitrogen, a little bit more nitrogen, a little bit more nitrogen, which is what I like. So Tracy's asking, what's the best way to spread it? Do I really have to buy a spreader? Yes, because of this. You can really burn, it's called burning a lawn. If you put on too much fertilizer, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's almost a poison to the plant. To the, you can do, it's kind of like, I don't know if you do any vegetable gardening, but if you take fresh manure rather than aged manure, if you take fresh manure right from your neighbor's cows, because literally I have a neighbor with cows down the road here, and you put that on your garden beds and your plants, the nitrogen is so strong that it burns the plants. It's called burning it. They wilt, and that's my wilting and dying pantomime. Aren't you glad I'm not pantomiming? But anyway, so yeah, you do need that to get your, you can buy a spreader at a yard sale. I mean, you can get one that's like super duper and you can tow it behind your tractor or whatever. But I actually think you should get a walk around spreader because you get your steps in that way. There's, hey Barb, there's a couple of, there's a spreader that you can strap actually onto your front. It's like a Bjorn, like a baby Bjorn, and it has a crank handle on the side, which is like super analog. Or you can push them. I think there's a barrel type and then there's like a bin type. I mean, whatever works for you, whatever makes you happy, or whatever you found at the sale. The other important thing here is to read the directions of your fertilizer, because that's going to determine, that directions is going to tell you how to get to that 1 pound per square foot. I would tend to be conservative when reading the, they're going to give you a range of, use 3 pounds, 4 pounds of this, per square footage, but I would go conservative and less, see how that goes, and then start from there. I mean, you really can't, we can't like wave our magic wand and make that look fantabulous overnight, unless we put a Labrador in the picture. That's Andy. Come here, little girl. Come here. Andy, come. Do you like my grass? Yeah. Anyway, and the other thing you have to think about is with your yard, where's the neighbor? Is it going to be like a showpiece yard, or is it going to be a yard you can enjoy? I mean, we enjoy the yard with the knuckleheads. My notes just went flying all over the place. This is my desk, my standing desk outdoors. I just got to, don't tell the dairy council, they'll get mad at me. But you kind of have to figure out what it is you want and then go from there. What I want is a yard that looks good. I'm not going to compete with my neighbor who has a much nicer yard. But I also, wait, where's my sign? It is what it is. I think you can have a really nice yard. I think it's important to have good pieces of equipment to take care of that yard. But I also don't want to take my whole weekend and devote it to yard work, unless you're into that, and that's totally okay. Oh, Julia, we're gonna talk about grass clippings. So, and somebody said, oh, Tracy just said, I killed a nice round spot last time I tried to use a spreader. Do I really have? Yeah, you should get a spreader. But the problem with the spreader, you have to be careful because you can, if you don't have it, we're going to talk about calibration now. Hopefully your spreader has come with instructions, or you might be able to find them online. But to be able to dose that 1 pound per 1,000 square feet, you can set the bottom of the spreader has like basically a hole in it that is adjustable like that. And that determines how much, and the camera operator is collecting all my signage for me. This is so nice. But so you have to calibrate that. And I obviously I did some research on this, and I really never thought about that until the other day when I was looking this up, and I was like, you calibrate your scale, right? I mean, teaspoons and baking cups and all that are calibrated. So why not calibrate the spreader of your fertilizer as well, right? So, camera operator, do you have my printed out notes?
Yes. You use double-sided. Good man.
Safe paper, double-sided. There.
Did you do this one already?
Yes. All right. The biggest thing is if all else fails, read directions on your fertilizer. This takes up the whole bag, but it's in big type, so people like me can read it. But yeah, if all else fails, read directions, because again, you can go awry with it. Don't fertilize your grass when it is dormant. Grass is dormant when it's brown. If you're having a drought and your grass looks like it's dead, it's not. It's gone dormant. Grass is a perennial plant, and when the conditions aren't right for it growing, it can go into a dormant state. kind of like winter hibernating. But I mean, then there's a point where if it doesn't get watered, it will die, yes. But if it's brown, you don't want to fertilize it thinking, oh, I'm going to get it to live again. And on that same vein, if you're going through a drought, I would not water the lawn, because you're kind of trying to put the lawn on life support in a way, and you're going to have to just keep on watering the lawn. You have a drought already. You're tapping a water system that's already going through a drought. So when it's dormant, if it's brown, let it be. In the fall, you'll probably get some rain, it'll come back, and then you could apply your time release fertilizer. So the ideal here with fertilizer is to promote root growth and not necessarily leaf growth. If you have really good root systems, your grass will be able to be resilient through things like drought, because those things called the roots. Yeah. They will go deeper into the moister part of the soil. If you are just like barely watering lightly and just fertilizing the heck out of it to promote this leaf growth, and you don't have any roots to hold that up, I think that's kind of it is a recipe for failure. And to go, I'm just going to go through my list here, because look at that, Aya. Aren't you proud of me? So to that point, fertilizer needs to be done over time rather than just dumping a huge dump of it. So that's when I say I think you should start with 2 times a year using the time release fertilizer. Yeah, you've applied it, but it's being released slowly rather than one of these fertilizers. A fertilizer, it isn't a time release. You're like, you know, it's like drinking a 12-pack, and when you just want to nurse a lawnmower beer, you know. All right, time release. The other thing about using up too much fertilizer and the whole idea of measuring your yard and then figuring out 1 pound per 1,000 square foot is nitrogen runoff into streams. Do you go hiking in the woods and you're like in this pristine, and all of a sudden you see a babbling brook, and then there's foam in like the corners where it goes around a rock or something? That can be a couple of things. One thing it can be is a sign of over-fertilization of a yard, or it might be runoff from a farm. I'm not an expert on this, but this is what some of the things I read. But in other words, and then you see in our oceans, we see algae blooms. So runoff from home yard fertilizer is a big issue. So if you want to kind of help with me and dial that back, I think we'll, going forward, make just for a better place. So, we're gonna hit on weeds in. I'm actually running over here, so not surprising. All right, so the other thing that you can help your grass with is to use a mulching mower. I actually have a Troy-Bilt mulching mower, and the whole idea of bagging grass and putting it somewhere, even though you could put it in your compost, I'm like, why not just leave it where it is? Because when you walk in the woods, you know, the woods doesn't rake up all the leaves every year when they fall. The worms come. Here, my worms coming up out of the worms break that down. The other insects, bugs and stuff break that down. The same thing with your grass. When you cut your grass and you use a really good mulching mower that's going to chop it up into small pieces, it drops back down onto the grass. That degrades, it adds nitrogen to the soil, and also it doesn't cause thatch. There seems to be this misnomer about that the mulching mower causes thatch, and that is not true, according to the web. But I've experienced that. I have always done a mulching mower, and I haven't had a problem with thatch. So let me just check my notes here. So, someone named Megan from Ohio is asking here about sheep in the yard. And Megan, you'll have to report back to us about using sheep in your yard. But actually, in Central Park in New York City, there's a thing called the Sheep's Meadow, and they used to use sheep to cut the grass there. So maybe there's something to that. I bet there's a lot of homeowners associations that do not allow sheep in your yard. We do not live in an area with a homeowners association, thankfully. So I just have a neighbor that tells me when I'm doing something wrong in my yard. I hope he's watching, because I love him. All right, weed control. Here's the big thing with weed control for me. your grass starts growing before the weeds start growing. That's my observation in life. That was pretty deep, wasn't it? And if you can get a head start on that, you're golden. And my big thing now is to use a corn gluten-based pre-emergent weed. It's not really a weed killer. That kind of infers like an evil chemical. Weed preventer. But here's the thing with me. So here's my thinking on this, and you tell me whether I'm crazy or not in the comments there. Most weeds are annuals, and they prop up in the spring from overwintered seed. Most grass is a perennial. Sorry, I got fertilizer and I'm whacking my laptop around here. How's the battery life? Can you guys still hear me? Good. By the way, if you notice, if you're live streaming in your yard, put your Wi-Fi router right in the window, and that works really well. Makes the client happy. So, back to annual weeds, perennial grass. A corn gluten-based, well, I'll just call it a weed killer, herbicide. Corn gluten inhibits the germination of seeds. And it's just brilliantly simple. So over time, if you do a corn gluten-based weed killer, it's going to take a couple years, but you're going to knock back the amount of weeds that pop up. And that way, the weeds that do pop up, whenever weeds pop up, they have a seed head. And if you don't get to that seed head with your lawnmower, the seed goes into the lawn again and overwinter. So you've got this vicious cycle of the annual weeds reseeding and getting bigger. If you use the pre-emergent, you're knocking back that ability every year. Read the instructions on the brand that comes, but it's usually 2 or 3 times a year with the corn gluten pre-emergent. You're knocking back its ability to keep on reproducing to slower and slower and slower, and you'll have less weeds that way. The weed killers where like it's the middle of summer and you're like, oh, I've got crabgrass and dandelion in my yard, and you bring out the big guns, you can use that, but I think with a little planning, you can use something that's better for your yard and better for us, and it'll do the same thing. And corn gluten actually, have to look up the science on this. I think it adds a little nitrogen to the soil as well. It's not bad. It's kind of like a compost in a way. So anyway, pre-emergent is the way to go there. The other thing is and this is all about mowing your lawn, is to mow the lawn when you start to see a weed popping up with a flower head. You want to chop that off. My big thing around here is called ground or broadleaf plantain, which has these really, I tried to print out a picture of it, and the printer, something happened, and it was 2 minutes till the show, so, because I'm prepared. And so you want to, something like that, it'll go straight up and you see this flower, but if you cut it, it shoots up a smaller one and a smaller one, a shorter and a shorter one. So that's my thing. But like if dandelions, if you see that they've flowered, mow them just after they flower. I actually like dandelions in the yard. Dandelion is a great salad green. And if you're using corn-based, the corn gluten weed preventer, you don't have a bunch of weed killer herbicide in your yard. You could actually harvest the dandelion out of your yard, because dandelion leaf is tastiest when it's before the flower stem pops up. I'm really there's a couple GardenFork videos about this. You want to look it up on our channel there. The other thing to think about there is that the root of the dandelion has been used in other times for all sorts of things. I think you can put dandelion in a couple, like an amarac, an amaro, some digestives and aperitifs and things like that. Oh my gosh, there's some pictures. Clover is a good thing for me. Not a fan of creeping Charlie. Yeah, but I'm not willing to use broadleaf weed killers because I like the clover. Yeah, so that's the other thing. I'm not Troy. I'm Eric. Because it says Ask Troy somewhere, right? No, I'm Eric. This is sponsored by GardenFork. I'm one of the Troy-Bilt ambassadors. I've actually working with Troy-Bilt for about, is it 6 years now? Some of the nicest people work. I've actually been to the Troy-Bilt headquarters. They have this amazing testing facility, and they have football fields of different, I'm going to bring my drone next time I go, of grass where they test out all their mowers. They test out where everything works. So I'm just your average New England yard guy talking there. So, but also you can kind of have a happy existence with some weeds. Like clover, I actually like because the bumblebees like it, and it actually fixes nitrogen from the air and puts it into the soil. So, I mean, what is a yard? That's kind of what we're getting into, like a deeper question here. Is it just rye and fescue, or is it some clover and the occasional dandelion? The irony of that is that broadleaf plantain drives me up the wall. So let me just check my notes, and then we're going to go through some questions here. Get to the weeds before they flower. Oh, a thick lawn, a thick, healthy lawn is the best defense against weeds that pop up, because if you've got good grass and the blades are covering the soil, the seeds that are on top of the soil don't get as much sunlight, and they may not germinate there. Page 2. Oh, I already talked about dandelions. So, all right, let me go through. I have always started pulling up dandelions. Wish the neighbors did, huh? Well, that's the other thing is, do I have enough battery? I've got enough battery to do this. So let's try this and see what happens, which is another GardenFork mantra. Hello? You got to have the obligatory Labrador. I know Aya and Barb are looking at this thinking that I have 4 minutes to go. So why not just add a little tension here? So, by the way, this is something you want to avoid. No, not the Labrador, but leaves on the yard over winter will kill your grass. What I do is I like to run the mulching mower across this, and we had late oaks. The oak leaves drop, and there was the last thing, and I've already got the yard clear, and all of a sudden the big oak tree, that oak tree right there, will drop, and it's like one more thing to do. But they are kind of leathery, and they're just not good for your grass. But let me show you over here. We have a couple minutes here. Stay on, because the Troy-Bilt experts are coming on. But this is the edge of my yard, and then I have this kind of brambly area here. But this is where the weeds come from. I mean, if you don't knock down, I run the mower through here a couple times a year, because your dandelion seed, your broadleaf plantain can grow here, and then the seeds get dropped over here by the wind or by animals or something like that. So that is something to think about. Excuse me. Mowing taller will help the grass shade out the weeds. Keep your mower set to 3/4, and over time the grass will outcompete. That's from Julia M. That's brilliant. That actually is a really good one. I actually like really tall grass. It's kind of, you can walk through it with your bare feet or something like that. You can. It just makes you smile, doesn't it? So, yeah, I mean, it's, for some reason, some people want to just have this really short grass, and that's not really good for the plant. I mean, if you want to grow like really healthy plants, my neighbor's driving by, and he's wondering what I'm doing. Chip and Marty Connor's driving by right now. So just wave to Connor. And he's like, what are you doing, Eric? So, but like this garlic here, I mean, if I wanted this garlic to be healthy, would I come over here and chop all this leaf down? Oh, I don't want the leaves too high, but I still want my garlic. No, I want large leaves. So yeah, let your grass grow. And the other key thing is to don't have too much of a gap between the times that you do mow your grass, because if you let it get really high and then you whack it down, that's not chopped up mulch. That's like the oak leaves and will mat you down. So clover is a good thing. I started pulling up the It's great to see. How to attack crabgrass effectively. That's hard. Crabgrass is really low. It just hangs out. If you can hire your kids to pull it out manually, that one you might have to go with a more chemical-based weed killer. The other thing about crabgrass is it likes disturbed soil. I got to log out here in a second, but right over there, where see that corner, there's a heavy traffic area. I run my quad right through there. I run the tractor through there, the mower, the dogs, and there's a maple up there that shades that area. So it's a bare spot, and it is just ripe for, much like right here, well, the oak leaves are there, so it's killing everything. But it'll, open soil, disturbed soil will invite weeds, and crabgrasses like boom in. And once it's set, it can then set seeds. And also go through around here and look for crabgrass and pull it out. So there you go. This will be saved. You can reference this on the Troy-Bilt YouTube channel. So this is sponsored by YouTube. I am one of their brand ambassadors, I think they call me. I'm actually not as cold as I thought it would be out here. But this will be now saved, so you can reference this or you want to share this with stuff. And thanks for watching. You can check out my channel. It's called GardenFork. I got to get a glove off to turn off the stream because I bet Aya wants me to. Aya might be even texting me. But just thank you to Barb and Megan for having me on. The experts from Troy-Bilt in Ohio are going to log on next and talk about maintenance, which is incredibly important. A sharp mower blade is incredibly important for healthy grass. Okay, so go out and do cool stuff and make it a great day. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. I will be doing this 2 more times over the next couple of weeks. You can find out more on, if you subscribe and turn on notifications for Troy-Bilt's YouTube channel, you'll find out about that. And I have to hit the end button here. And there we go. Thank you. Does it end? Yeah, we're ended.